The Marvel Rivals Beta 2 is in full swing, and by the time you're seeing this, it might be over, but that doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and give you my tier list of characters, how good they are, how good they potentially are. You have to remember that this is a beta. We've only had it for a couple of days, like 2 weeks at most. So I think some of these characters may show potential, but not really have it be utilized as of right now. And I think other characters are just very strong because they're very good. I wish there were real patch notes that they had to give us so that I could actually get into the nitty gritty about some of these characters. But we're kind of just going off of some vibes about how it felt to play them. But overall, where do I think the meta is right now? I do think it is in a decently similar spot. At least how the game plays to where it was in the first beta. High sustain. It's very, very hard to kill things. Ults are generally very, very good, especially ones that bypass the high damage threshold required to get a lot of kills. And basically any character that can do damage while surviving, or keeping the team alive, rather, probably going to be very, very good. Now, I do think in this build, the stuns, they feel better. I think some of them might have been buffed. I don't know if there were any changes to how they worked. It feels like there were. They feel longer. They feel more impactful. And that is going to matter, at least with one particular character that we're going to talk about in a little bit. So basically, I'll just go through real quick. So I'm going to have meta definers are going to be the de facto, I think, best characters in the game. Really, like, this is how you play the game around these characters because they're so good. I've got very strong picks. They either slot in really well with those characters or just generally very good, that if you pick them, it's not a troll. I have great uncertain maps and points, or they have really good team ups. So it's like you would pick this character because they're really defensible on this certain point, or maybe they have a team up with another character that is just kind of bonkers, and then they aren't that bad, so it doesn't really matter, right? So you pick them because of that team up. Good bit outclassed are characters that I think are in a healthy position, but why would you play them over other characters? Too niche or hard to use is that it's a beta, and there are some characters that I think their value is much harder to get right away, rather than other characters where, the easiest strategy available is going to be in the meta. The okay, I guess, are characters that are just fine, but I don't see any reason why you would ever want to pick these characters over others. And then the weak to bad ones are the ones that are really just kind of struggling, which I think in this beta, less characters are hard struggling. So, with that being said, let's go on to Mr. Hard Struggling himself, Hulk. I think all the problems with old Hulk still remain. He has extremely limited range. His melee attacks, they are Marvel Rivals melee attacks, so they suck. They barely ever hit. He can close the distance, sure, but it takes time to charge up and jump, and he just kind of feels a little clunky. He doesn't have a good team up. Even though there are more dive tanks and more dive characters to help him, I just don't think Hulk really has much going for him. His stun isn't great. His bubble isn't great. His survivability compared to the survivability of other characters is very limited. And it's just kind of like, I just don't see a way that this character is actually providing any value consistently at all. Unfortunate for him, he has been left behind from the other beta as well. On the complete opposite spectrum of dive tanks, holy shit, Venom is so good. I don't see a world where you don't run this character. He cannot be stopped. His dive is CC immune. He gets 1,000 shields at the press of a button. There is no skill involved. He has this crazy survivability. The fact that he can run up walls allows him to dive into fights without having to use his swing, which is his really fast get out of jail tool. So he can get in, do a lot of damage, pop the shield, be on the back line for way longer than a character like this should. Use that tendril ability, especially on characters that don't have mobility, so he can get way more damage and then swing out. Or if you have the right backline, he doesn't even have to do that. There have been times where you're just sitting on Venom in the front line and full health, and I haven't even had to use my shields because sustain is so good. He has good damage. He even has really good range for a character like this. It's actually crazy how good his primary fire is. It is not a melee curse. It has some good range to it. Everything about Venom is just really good. His ult is another like refresh shield survivability ult, which is just really good again to keep him in the front lines. Crazy character. I can imagine this character will be tuned down in the future, but as of right now, I am a Venom one trick, and I'm not ashamed to say it. Okay, I think the biggest glow up from any character, well, this one or another character we'll talk about later, one of the biggest glow ups is Magneto. The fact that he can now bubble himself skyrockets his survivability. I remember being like, oh, its shield isn't very useful because it's like 4 seconds and you can only use it for that amount of time, and then he doesn't really have anything else and he has to just kind of cower and hide. No longer does he have to do this. Now he has his own self bubble so he can rotate his shield and his bubble. He can give it to other people if he wants, and there are some scenarios he would do that. He has really good high damage pressure. He's very easy to use. He's hard to kill in this survivability meta. And he has like a good knockback ability, which can help prevent divers from getting on your backline. I do think Magneto is probably the second strongest tank in the game. Also, his ult is still really good at countering some of those really good ults in the game. There aren't many ults that really counter each other like that, and Magneto's is this big exception where there's so many where he just pops it and he goes. Bent, I will tell you in a second. Let me finish this video, okay? Or you can look in the Discord. Okay, Doctor Strange. Very strong, in my opinion. I think his power level is very similar to what it was in the other beta. I think he is very strong. Apparently, he is more survivable rather than like DPS oriented. I don't feel this. I think his DPS is still very good. And his frontline pressure is very good. Okay, thank you, Ethan, for the 2 subs. I appreciate it. But yeah, anyways, Strange here, he self-survivability, great. He's that off tank, right? He blocks flanks and angles, so if you have problems with Hela or Punisher, anything that takes like a soft angle, not necessarily hard diving, then that is going to really help Doctor Strange, or that's really where Doctor Strange thrives. Now, I don't think he is as good as, or he's as good as he was, but since there are other tanks that I think have just kind of surpassed him, you would play him, you would have, I think, a good time substituting him for Magneto, but really you would play him if you really need to stop angle pressure, I think. It's a good idea, or he's a good character, rather. I think the other tanks are just that much better, but definitely not a throw pick by any means. All right, Penny Parker, I thought was kind of useless in the other beta. I think now she is pretty decent. The reason why is that I don't think she works everywhere, but she is pretty defensible. She has some pretty good stun, CC, anti-dive kind of stuff. I think dive characters are better in general in this beta, and since she got better herself, I think she's much better at countering that. She has, good defensibility, stuff like that. She has a good team up with Venom. Since Venom is so good, that playing a Penny with it, I don't think is really that bad of an idea. But I don't think she works everywhere. Trapping on control maps, or whatever they're called, domination, doesn't really feel that great. When you can set up the traps and the webs and everything on defense on certain maps, that is when Penny is going to feel the best for choke points and stuff like that. Definitely much better, and I think there is a use for her that isn't just like, okay, like I think she has a good niche, but I wouldn't be picking her all of the time. All right, Groot. Groot is really weird because I thought he was really good in the last beta, But honestly, this beta, I think he just is not nearly as usable. Or he's good, right? Like, he is just fine. He's going to be your sustain tank. But I have found that he explodes way more than he used to, right? There's so many characters that can just kind of take an angle on him. They can get around his walls. I mean, even in fact, like the other tanks that he would be fighting, they just hard win the DPS pressure. I mean, like, Venom is as survivable, if not more than Groot, and can just get in his face and headshot him, and then Groot cannot get away. So I just don't think that Groot can really compete anymore. Now, apparently, they kind of shifted his power, and I think they took a lot of it away from his walls. Again, the patch notes are bad, but I think that definitely is tangible, and I would not really play Groot. Now, is he a bad option? No, he's probably still okay on some maps, but I would definitely pick any of these other tanks that I've talked about, other than Hulk, over him if I had the choice. Okay, and then Thor is really, really weird, and the only reason I'm putting him into niche is not because of his actual power, it is because of his team up ability with Hela. Because I see a world where a tank getting rezzed from the Hela team up is really good, but Thor himself does not provide enough value, I think, to really make that worth it. And just playing him by himself he is just not very good. He's really clunky. He doesn't do very good damage. He doesn't have very good range consistently. Even his movement isn't as consistent as you would want from a character like this. He just cannot survive at all. I think that Thor, while his design concept is really fun and interesting to me, in practice, he just doesn't really have it as a very well-rounded and consistent threat on the battlefield. He is very much like, if you don't have that special Thor lightning mode for those 5 seconds it's up, what's the point? And you're barely going to kill anything in that either, because it's like good DPS, but it's not like the best in the game. So I think Thor is just really not worth it. Otherwise, I think I would put him into okay at best, but since he has that team up, there is like a world where you could play Thor, but I wouldn't really focus on it. All right, Punisher. Punisher, I don't exactly know how he got nerfed. I would assume it's probably some range stuff. Hit scan was really good in the last beta. It's not quite as good, but still pretty consistent. I'm tempted to put him in the good but outclassed category, but I don't really know. Well, you know what? There is a character that outclasses him, at least in the hit scan position. I'll throw him here for now. I may swap him around a little bit, but I definitely think they have brought him in a little bit. I think his shotgun is still pretty good, but it hasn't felt as oppressive. Maybe we've just figured out how to get around it. But again, he is kind of like a simple character. Simple, effective. He's a very good first beta character, right? You just hop in. I know how to shoot the rapid fire gun, and I'll hit everything. And other people trying to play these new, interesting, weirdo characters are probably going to take more time to adjust than me, who's just shooting what my reticle sees. I think that has brought him in a little bit. So I'm going to keep him here in good. He is not bad by any means. He's a consistent character. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't see his power being like it used to. Iron Man is okay. I think his ult is good, but playing a character just for an ult isn't really worth it. He still kind of explodes in the air. His rockets don't do anything. It seems to have a better time with his like other form where he uses the beam. But that requires you to get close, and his movement isn't really that fast in order for you to get that close. And, you know, if he is at that range, even like Venom can hit him. So it's really not great. It's not really safe. I don't see why you would pick Iron Man over any other DPS character, I think. I just, like, he doesn't really have anything going for him. Um, Again, he's not really bad. He has okay damage. He has a good ult, but otherwise, not much to him. Star-Lord, I was going to put in good but outclassed, but I don't think he's really outclassed by anyone like him. So I'm going to put him in strong because he is a flanker. He is hit scan. He has good damage pressure. But I find a lot of problems with Star-Lord is that it is hard to actually get on these backlines and kill them because a lot of them are so survivable with those two supports that are really, really good. So you really have to catch them off guard. And the problem with that is that he doesn't have that much burst. I know I'm saying like he has a lot of problems, but his damage is very good and very consistent. And if you can play him well, especially with the flips and the reloads and everything, he can totally get the job done. And I think he is a good like fallback pick, like a strong like. I think we need just more like consistent pressure from the side. That is going to be Star-Lord, right? Like I think Punisher is kind of outclassed by Star-Lord. But he also has a really good team up with Adam Warlock. That is actually kind of crazy, especially for a flanker. So I will keep him up here. I think he is pretty good. But like he'll be at like the very end of the strong picks, in my opinion. Magic, I'll give it to her. I'll put her in niche / hard to use. But I don't know why. Like, I don't know why you would pick Magic, right? I think she's just hard, and I think she could be good in time. But she's not really a dive character because her mobility isn't really for getting around the map so much as it is mid-fight type of stuff. Like, I feel like she would work more in a brawl. But is she really good in sustain metas like this? You know, like, if characters are not dying and all she does is hit them very consistently with, you know, okay damage, is that going to be enough to kill them consistently without getting slept or whatever and having to leave early? I don't think so. Again, I feel like there's probably a world where she's okay, but this character is so hard and unique that, again, I don't think it's worth it to try and put the effort into Magic. But yeah, that's kind of her. I'm gonna go ahead. Same thing with Spider-Man. Very hard character. He is a dive character. He works well with Venom because they have their team up together. But his burst is a lot better, I think. In fact, I'll put him at the top of it. His burst is a lot better than Magic's or anything like that. But CC has gotten better. And Spider-Man, if you can catch him, he will die. Now, catching him is the problem, but there's certain characters whose CC is a little easy, and maybe not as hard as you would think it is to get the value that it does. And we'll talk about them later. But I don't see Spider-Man really making waves here. Now, I will say the uppercut is actually really good against some certain supports that really want to be on the ground in order to stay alive. So I see the counterplay, I see the idea, but I think Spider-Man is really hard to use and to team up with. That as of right now, I think it is much more risky to play him than it is safe, sound strategy. Could be good in the future, but as of right now, I don't think it's worth it for the majority of people. Okay, Hela is very strong. Now, she was a meta definer last season, in my opinion, but she's come down a little bit solely because they nerfed, I think, some of her range. Now, she is still really good, and she can still 2-tap people in the right situations, but it's not as oppressive as it used to be. And I think that just puts her in the strong category. I would definitely take a Hela on my team. In fact, I don't think any of the DPS are like super overloaded in this build, at least compared to Hela and like Punisher last time. But still very, very good, and she is probably still the best DPS in the game if I had to say it. So yeah, definitely still Hela pilled, at least as of right now. Namor. I think Namor's okay. He got like a damage buff, and also he can move during his bubble, so he's not just like out in the open. Good defensible spam like that, but otherwise, I don't think his turrets really provide much. And once they break through the spam, since there's 2 characters, it's honestly not that hard. He becomes way more worthless, and you question why you would even play him in the first place. So, yeah, he is okay. I'm not going to put him in weak because I think being able to potentially 2-tap people is still really strong. But, yeah, I think his game plan falls apart pretty hard right now. Scarlet Witch has the best, I think, team up in the game with one of the best characters in the game, Magneto. Now, I don't think Scarlet Witch is like crazy good by any means, but the fact that she can give Magneto a 3-tapping, no range limit ability on a 30-second cooldown that supplements Magneto's weakness of range, crazy good. Giving her a bubble during her ult, or really just when she's doing anything, also really good value. There are some scary combinations you can do with Scarlet Witch. I think she's one of those characters that it's like, when dealt with correctly, it's hard for her to get a lot of value, but if she's providing the value to another better character on the field, maybe it's worth it to run Scarlet Witch. Because, again, since DPS, in my opinion, aren't that strong this patch, then why not just run a Scarlet Witch and make better characters better, right? If it doesn't really matter who's in that slot, why not increase the value of others? So I'm going to put her as like great with this team up. I wouldn't really put her anywhere else, like probably more like outclassed. But yeah, she gets to stay up here solely because of that. Black Panther, he got buffed, and he's really hard and probably not worth it because of these sustained metas. You can't kill Jeff. You can't. You probably can't kill Loki. Adam is really hard to kill if he has his his orbs or anything. You're probably not going to kill Mantis. Luna may be kind of an exception. She may be able to get run down by Panther. Otherwise, what are you going to do? All the DPS are either too mobile or too flying to really do anything effective, and just getting good damage on the tanks is okay, but again, the sustain is really high, and you don't do it over that short of a period of time, so he's not really going to work. Now, I think he does provide actually a lot of consistent team damage that could be useful against certain comps, but yeah, I just don't see Panther really working out like you want him to. Again, he could assassinate people in theory, but how hard it is to assassinate people compared to how easy it is to survive the assassination, it kind of writes itself, right? So I'll put him in niche, but honestly, it's probably worse than I'm giving him credit for. But I like him, so I'm gonna give him a pass. Storm is really weird. I actually don't know. I don't know how I want to do this. I think I'm gonna put Storm in great on certain team ups. Now, it's not actually her team up that I think makes her good, because hers is with Thor, and you know it buffs her. But I do think that we underrated the value of the speed and the damage boost, especially on a character that is probably, like, honestly not that bad. She can play a little far away because her storm things can go like super duper far, and she can damage boost herself from that range. So I actually think we've kind of underestimated Storm, especially since Hitscan was so good last time. Now that it's not as good, I think she's really found her place a little more. I can see strategies with Storm that would work. Her being a permaflyer is really hard to work around sometimes, but speed is really good. Damage boost is really good. Being able to have 2 sustainable supports and then also a damage boost or a speed boost on top of that on a DPS pressure character, it's starting to sound good, right? It's starting to sound like she has something to do. I think she is hard to run effectively, even though she is an easy character overall. So I don't know if I would necessarily want to pick her all the time, but I see a world where Storm can actually be a really good kind of counter pick or something like that. So be on the lookout for Storm as we go further into the meta that's evolving. All right, now we're on the supports here. Jeff is also going to go into the certain maps points. On defensible defensible payload maps, there are a couple points and chokes in this game where if there is a Jeff super far back supporting the front line because his range is insane, there's nothing you can do. You are not going to be able to kill him. He's going to be able to heal the team up to full. If you try to dive him, he's going to 5 bubble himself because that's just a thing he can do. You cannot break the bubbles by shooting them. I do not understand why this is a thing. You have to run into them as a team or as an enemy. That doesn't make any sense to me. You should be able to shoot them. He should be able to have to think about where he places the bubbles. Instead, he can just put them down and just start running into them like willy-nilly, basically. I think Jeff can be really oppressive on some of those points, but he is, Spider-Man can knock him up and he can't get a bubble because he's on the ground. Stuff like that. I think a lot of the divier characters are going to have a field day with him because his mobility, he can still be shot during shark form or when he goes underground. And there are a couple characters that are consistently good at keeping on him while he's in that form too. So if you're trying to use that as your main survivability, you will die. It's really up to your bubbles. So you can use bubbles selfishly most of the time since your healing output is so good. And your DPS pressure is really not that bad either. So that's why I think he's pretty great on certain maps or points. Like Shin Shibuya first, I think is that map. On that back high ground. How do you even get to him? It's so hard to even get to him. And then if he sees you coming, he has ample time to react and get away. Okay. Luna Snow was a meta definer last time, and she's still a meta definer this time. I think the snowball is just so good. You have so much you can do with this. You can either keep both of your tanks or multiple frontliners up at the same time and get double the sustain pressure. You can put it on flankers, and they can just go do whatever the hell they want. There's no line of sight required, and you can just keep them up and keep them as a nuisance, and you don't even have to think about it. She is very easy to play. She can do decent damage pressure too. I think the only thing is that she can be dove, and diving is better this patch. However, there's another character. In fact, let's just go ahead and throw her up there. Mantis. I don't know what they did to this character, but she is kind of busted. I think the sleep being on an AoE that you can just kind of throw, you can basically hit every single one, and sleep being way better and way longer are absolutely a key factor. Now that a dive is a little more viable, she stops that. She completely shuts it down, and she gives people damage boosts. She has really good damage pressure from the backline. So basically Mantis is going to be protecting your backline. So you can play these characters like Jeff or Luna or Adam who are less survivable with a Mantis because she's going to be able to catch them and watch them and make sure they're going to be okay while doing a lot of DPS pressure herself. It's kind of crazy. I've not even really played this character. From what I've seen and playing against her, it is way more annoying than it was in the first beta. And I think she actually has a place here. This is a super glow up. I thought this was the worst support in the rest, or in the last beta. I think she might be the best support now. Most consistent, at least, against many factors. So definitely want to be looking at Mantis. Mantis Luna is going to be your kind of default backline, in my opinion, with a couple others creeping in here or there. Rocket. I think he's good. I put him in here last time. I remember kind of underrating him compared to other people. And res is really good, but I think flanking is better. Getting around to get that beacon is better. The thing is that I think Luna just provides way more, right? I think Rocket sustain is really good, but I think Luna provides it way better. And I think a couple of the other niche characters that are good on certain maps or points are probably better on those points than Rocket is. He is really good. I'll put him up here. He is really good, but I don't know how to justify really having... Now, okay. Actually, I'm remembering he has his ult, which is really crazy this patch, because you really can't break it whatsoever. There's no thought to put it... God... I don't know. I'll put him up here. I'll put him at the bottom of here. I see a skill cap. I see a cap on this character's value that I'll give him beta credit that it is easy to execute. But I see a cap on this character's value that I don't see on Luna or Jeff or Adam per se, you know? Or Mantis. But he is still like a good fallback option that can provide a lot. So I'll secede. That's not the word I'm looking for. I'll I'll leave him in very strong. I'll let the masses have it. I think that's a fine spot for him. Okay. Adam. Same thing. The least survivable support in the cast, but has some of the most frustrating abilities to deal with. I don't think he is super duper duper good, but you cannot deny an ability, a res ability that not only mass reses your team, but you can use before they die and then they'll come back so they can just get hyper aggressive with it. Also, the fact that he can give Star-Lord and Mantis their own self-reses, that's just kind of bonkers crazy. His burst healing is extremely good. Like, I don't think you can run solo Adam, and I don't think you can run Adam with like a really low healing backline, but the value that he does provide is a lot. He has really good damage pressure. He is hit scan. He is almost as good as Hela at it. I'm not kidding. So he has a lot to him, but his downsides are really noticeable. Like, I think he has the most downsides out of any of the supports. So it is tough to really call him a strong pick, but there are definitely points where you can make him work and it's going to feel really oppressive. Supports are I think supports are probably the best. Again, they are the best role in this game overall. And finally, that leaves us with Loki. Loki definitely gets outclassed. He was really good last beta, but I think that was just because he could provide really good angle pressure that wasn't going to instantly die when a hit scan looked at him. Nowadays, I don't think we really need that pressure because we have good dive tanks and we have, the more consistent DPS, and some of the supports can even do it too. Some of these good ones have that DPS pressure. So Loki doesn't really have much going for him anymore, really, at least standing out compared to others. He has good survivability, and I think if you had these comps if he had like a more divey comp, I know Venom isn't like everything, but Venom is really just disrupting, like a Wrecking Ball rather than a Winston. If you had more dive-oriented stuff, or more angle, pokey, maybe Loki finds his way in, but right now, I think there's just kind of no reason to play Loki, even with his team up with Hela. I think it's just you're better off playing any of these other characters to support the team. I think his healing and his damage might have even gotten nerfed, and that is also kind of why he just feels way more underwhelming than he did in the last build of the game. So not bad by any means. I think there was always going to be a niche for him, but not really worth it to run over anybody else. And that's it. I do think that this meta is, I don't want to say more clear, but it's a little more open, it looks like. Now that there are more characters and more team-up abilities, I think it is a little more open, even though I think there are more meta-defining characters this time. Power level across the board, I think, has gone up, if I had to guess, which is a crazy thing to say about this game. But let me know in the comments, do you agree with me? Are there any characters you think are turbo broken or some that are just complete doggy doo-doo? Let me know. I'd love to hear it. Also, while you're at it, like and subscribe. It does really help me out. This was streamed live, twitch.tv/Lane Hemingway. That is Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Always trying to do a discussion. Always something to talk to me about. Join my Discord. We're starting a new little Rivals community in there. If you have any character ideas or anything like that, go ahead and send them to me. I'd love to see them. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good day.